Okay, we're on.
Hello, one and all, and welcome to another education podcast with The Great Hall. I'm Nicholas, and I will be hosting this episode. I am here with.
Jonathan RC.
Harry Vu.
And Dylan De Silva.
I've just had the gentleman watching a couple of videos by Prince EA. What is school for? And I sued the school system. You can find links to them in the description if you wish to watch them before continuing. Let's start with what is school for? During the video, it says, it gives us the definition of educe, the Latin root for education, which means to draw forth or to bring out. How do you think it went from the roots to develop people into what we have now?
I think it's standardizing because the roots of education, if we do take the Latin translation literally, and that is exactly how they taught in the past, then I feel like, because I'm pretty sure it was the privilege back then, right?
Sure,
You have to be high class, right? But now it's way more standardized, specifically when you think about the reason why school was made, which was to teach factory workers, right?
Modern
So-
education was
That's what they
designed
said.
to teach factory
Exactly.
workers.
So we call it education, which makes it sound very pretty, but
Big words, yep.
yeah, right. It's like, oh, I'm being educated. Oh, it's great. It's like, well, not really. But yeah, I think it's more standardizing. School really does feel more like a business, and it's like all standardized, and
What do you think, Gary?
controlled.
The video is good. My only thing that I don't like about it is, well, I mean, it fits the purpose, and that's cool. I think that it fits the purpose very well, but it doesn't really
What
fit.
fits the purpose?
Well, it fits the purpose of proving that, it's kind of just begging the question, you know? And I like the fact that it's giving us this question. I like the fact that it's bringing it to light, but I don't really like the fact that it's not really telling us anything. I was sort of expecting an answer rather than the ending of a question, right?
Okay.
Because I think that videos and media itself should express opinions, right? Instead of just,
Sure.
you know,
But I would counter with you that given how we elect today, we think that the education system is correct. So questioning it has no answer. Would you agree to that or no?
I would rather see an alternative. That's all I'm really saying.
Okay, so you wanted some kind of answer.
Yeah. I'd rather have an
Dylan?
alternative because it's I don't, it makes a lot of, especially me, when I'm watching this, it makes you almost feel a little more lost in what's going on. Because it's like, okay, like, oh yeah, well, it is wrong. They aren't doing
Yeah,
things correctly.
I,
Now
I
what? You know?
I get that because it's like you have this idea of what to follow, that being school, right? Like follow this, follow this, follow
Yeah.
this. And this video challenges that. So it's like, all right, can't follow this anymore, but it doesn't pose
Yeah.
a solution.
It's just taking it
It's
away
like,
from you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which I do understand. It's a video, and it's more like posing
Yeah.
a question. It wants to spread and be like thought about, which maybe if people take it seriously,
Yeah.
then maybe the solution will come. But still, it does leave a longing for some sort of answer.
Yeah.
All right. Dylan,
I'm
do you have
not a
anything
fan
to
of
add?
that.
Well, okay, so I actually really like the video because in school, I feel like we're limited to how many programs we have. And like he brings light to that. So that's pretty cool.
All right.
And
What
like
else?
I,
You want to
you
say
guys were
anything more?
mentioning how like I don't know, to me, it might be a bit stretched too, because like in media we have to clickbait a bit. So obviously he's got to put like things that like people want to hear.
Yeah.
But I think he keeps it balanced. And overall,
Here's
it's a
another
real good
thing.
video.
In the video, it says that suicide is the leading cause of death for ages 10 to 24. How big of a impact do you think school and school stress plays in that number?
Oh, a huge amount.
For sure, a lot.
Oh, a huge amount. Which is
Because like kids
it's
don't even sleep from doing homework. Like
yes.
I know
I've
numerous
pulled
amount of
several
kids that
all-nighters
pull
before.
all-nighters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it's a little bit hard to judge. I can't you can't really say that there's a direct correlation with teen suicide and school. I think that with certain cases, there's probably, some correlation.
Fair.
Suicide's a heavy topic,
It
and
is, I know.
especially with people who have mental health. I've suffered from mental health issues.
I think we all have.
It's
Hmm.
it's a little bit difficult, and I almost find it a little bit offensive to just say like, "Oh, it's school. School is a factor," but at the same time,
I mean, just
everything's a
think of it
factor,
though. A
right?
lot of the stress that school builds up is too much for people. We hear it in the hallways every day. You know what, man? I'm just gonna kill myself and get done with it. Sure, the guys in the hallways joke, but it always has that backing. You people
Okay,
actually do.
that kind of like wants me to bring up another point, another aspect of school. School is a thing that can lead to suicide, but also a lot of things within school can lead to suicide, like
Yeah.
bullying, like
True.
unchecked bullying specifically, right?
Yeah.
Like no help around. You get bullied, you complain, or like this is happening to me. No one cares. You get ignored because a lot of times schools don't want to be pointed out for not having a good community. Uh, and then some teachers that bully students, like it might not seem
Yeah.
like it, but it's like, man, this teacher's really hard on these students, or like specifically one student,
Hmm.
which makes you feel like horrible as a student yourself, and accompanied with all the homework we get. And the stress from homework, it doesn't sound as bad. And you always hear teachers like, oh, manage your time. But it's like, I don't have time because of you, especially because
Hmm.
we need a lot of sleep. I am constantly tired to the point I can't stop myself from passing out in my third period,
Wait,
which I feel
have you
bad
guys
for my
noticed?
teacher, but whatever. Like, he understands, and I'm not doing horrible in that class, but I can't help but pass out during my third
Yeah.
period because I'm so tired when I get
That
to
was a
school.
huge point in the video.
Yeah,
They give us
and
so
like,
much work, but they don't teach us how to manage the time to do it.
Yeah,
exactly,
but like,
exactly right. And the main issue that I think leads to this struggle with time management is it just everything piles up, and then there's procrastination. I get it, procrastination's not, you don't do that, right, and you'll be better. But no one wants to procrastinate because we all know that it's a
Yeah.
good thing to do to not. But a lot of times for me, when I start a semester, it's like, all right, no work, I'm gonna do all the work as soon as it comes, and
All
I
right,
will.
Dylan.
But then I
Besides the
get,
video, something you want to add?
yeah. Oh yeah, done.
have you guys noticed that like when we get like we don't get work to do at school as much as we used to get, I feel like as grade 12s. It's more
We
like you get to school and like, oh, here's the homework at the end of the day, go do it.
Um, the
Yeah.
Sure,
thing
but
is, we've
we've
been
had
in the
4 years
system for
to get
so
used to it.
long. It's just very. As for a teacher, if I was in that position, I'd sort of have that assumption, like, well, if I just write work, you guys would know, like, okay, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like a young kid, I
Yeah.
guess you have to be, told, taught, understood. Oh, this is homework. This is what it is. We've seen homework like thousands of times
Hmm.
collectively, and it's
Yeah.
individually, like, same thing. It's not really that much different. I don't know. I honestly can just only say the same thing. Just give me an answer. Give an option.
Okay.
That's all you
Uh,
really need.
to go back to what I was saying before when it comes to like procrastination, uh, I feel I have to put like shove blame onto something else other than myself. But I do feel school kind of breeds procrastination only because of this sleep, right? Because you go to school, you start semester, you usually people they get the most work done in the beginning of the semester because they've come off of a break, fully energized. But
Yeah,
then you
and they're
start
not
getting
burnt out.
exactly. You start
Yeah.
doing assignments, right? And let's say you have some big assignments, you stay up a bit. That is like the beginning of the end. Because if you
Yep.
stay up to do a work, you fall asleep, but you have to wake up at the same time every day. So you get like 4 hours of sleep, and then you go to school exhausted. By the time you go home, you pass out. You wake up
Yep.
at 8 o'clock. So you're like, ah, shoot, gotta do all my homework, and it's just you start pushing off homework more because you're like, I just want to sleep, right? I want to relax. I want to sleep. I always go home, pass out, never have enough time to do homework. I'll do it tomorrow, and then it just gets
Completely
worse and
unrelated, but
worse.
you get 4 hours of sleep, man. That's fantastic.
Exactly. Like, it's it's bad,
So,
man.
I think we're gonna move on. I
Yeah.
mean, we've heard a lot of people having a lot of mental health issues because they keep failing at school. Correct? Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
Today, having an
Sorry, Tom.
education is not the be all and end all. In the
Yeah.
video, you were given examples, creators of Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp,
That's
something I can't
difficult.
remember.
I'll remark on this. It's very rare you can find
Yeah.
an individual that's able to think to that capacity and also, very importantly, work to that capacity as well.
Yeah.
I don't think that
Fair,
those
but
people are given enough credit. Because, like, oh, they dropped out of high school. They weren't that smart. Are you an idiot? Those
mhm,
people are
they have a lot more
insane.
money than all we do now.
No, it's not
Exactly.
even about money. I'm saying the amount of work that they have to put into what they're doing is insane. It's more insane than anything we have ever experienced in our lives. Like, it's actually crazy. I think there was something like people talked about how Elon Musk probably does enough work for like 2 lifetimes, right?
Hmm.
And he's not even dead, right? It's insane how much these people work. And look, I get it. I guess it is an argument to state, oh well, there are cases of people who cannot be, you know, um, professionally educated or educated in, a public school or whatever kind of schooling, and they can be successful. Sure, I would. Yeah, it's possible. Can it work?
But also the
Yeah,
times have changed.
times have
Yeah.
changed a lot, and
Because
innovative
By the
that's
same
thinkers
like
are
talking
token of what
very
you're
about
hard to
saying,
find.
it's
Harry,
like
by the
Pardon me?
same token of what you're saying, a lot of people who don't have degrees, they do a lot of work. And yet people who do have degrees are in the unemployment line or working at Starbucks.
You
I'm trying
always
to
Yeah.
have
find a
those
certain
shifts.
article that we got.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
guys
That
have your
that
fun
that.
while I find something.
Find something. Hey, what? What did you say, bud?
I think
Keep
regardless, you'll always have that polarization of, oh, okay, one thing that everyone I think can agree on is that there's no system that works for everybody.
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
It can't work. It can't work because you're going to have that one guy who's going to say, oh, well, this education works. Okay, so I'm just going to sit here and do nothing and hope that, by the time I'm finished, I'm just going to be rich, right? And that's ridiculous. I'm like, no, the education system will not work for you. But I
Yeah.
think it's that the conclusion that everyone's trying to come to is what education system can work for the greatest amount of people. And I think one big question then is, has our education system been working for people, right? Has it really? I don't know. I
I don't. I
haven't
I
really
feel
seen any
like
statistics.
it feels like 50-50 because I feel like the only reason I have to go to school is to get a job. It's like it just feels like a prerequisite to get a job.
Have a
It's like oh
career.
Yeah.
exactly right. It's like oh that's why people are like oh I have a 70. Who cares, right? No one. A lot of people don't even strive to do their best. They just like get through it, get a job, right? And I feel like as time passes, the only thing that's changing is the prerequisites to get a job are increasing.
Yeah.
Now you need at least a bachelor's degree to get a job, a really
Hmm.
low paying job, which
Yep.
is really dumb. Um, oh man, like
I
I
think
feel like the only way
money's
to
kind of stupid.
yeah
Paying for something like university is very ridiculous. I don't see
yes
why you'd have to pay for university because, well, yes, student loans are a thing. It's possible to get a loan from the government. But
and
at
But
the
what if you
get it
same
don't get a
today.
time,
job?
having to pay off that loan is kind of a really bad situation. Because
Yeah
think about it. Let's say in reality, right? Um, we'll say your parents make not enough money to even touch the loan at all, and it's only you, right? I don't want to get into parents because it's gonna overcomplicate things a little bit.
Yeah.
You get you apply to university, you get in, right? You got your student loan, you got to pay for your tuition, right? You're going to school and you're working. Not only have to go to work, not only do you have to go to work, you have to do very well in school to pass, just to pass, right? Just so you get your diploma, get out. And after all of that, maybe whatever, 4 years, you're done. After 4 years of hell and 4 years of tuition adding up and adding up, then you got to find yourself a job and you got to pay it off within like what is it, a month, 2 months. You get a little grace period and then you're good. and you're working all the time, living with your parents, or getting even more debt, living, somewhere else you can't really
Renting.
afford, right? Renting to pay off your tuition. And let's say collectively, you'll probably spend like, I don't know, a couple years on that. You wasted like, a couple years of your life just slaving away, paying off a loan.
Yeah.
And that's all because you went through the education system just to get a job that you really wanted.
Yeah.
That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, it's very unmotivating. It's like, what is the point if you're doing it, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
Alright.
pretty messed up.
Shall we move on?
Yep.
Sure.
yeah.
The last question I have for you regarding this video is simple. I know I felt like this, but have you ever felt like the child in the back of the class with a passion but not willing to try for one reason or another, just letting your passion die and fade away?
Uh,
I
if
don't
I
know.
was
Maybe it depends on the teacher, I guess.
maybe in the past, but
I'll
if
say
I ever did
this.
have a passion like that as a child,
Yeah.
I forgot. I have a new passion now.
Yeah,
But
I think I'm
Yeah.
in the same boat, but I also think
Same.
that most of the time, if I ever felt a certain way, regardless of what the teacher thought, I would always very much express how I felt about the situation and how I felt about answering and or doing questions, like just completing them. Well, because I have this strong desire in my heart, let's say, and I want it to be like, all right, whatever, teacher, friends, whoever, students, classmates. Oh yeah, he didn't do that good in class. He was kind of like a, not that smart. He was this kind of guy. He went off topic. He was doing this and this. But in the future, I am heavily successful off of that. And I a lot of it's selfish, a lot of it's kind of just like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? This guy was on to something, he was doing something amazing. But then a lot of it comes down to, well, I'm showing you that you don't have to be in the herd. You don't have to be, following everybody else to be successful or just be happy in general. I can be criticized by a teacher, but if I said what I wanted to say, I'd still be really happy. I'd still be really happy that I got my point across, just voiced out there into the world. So have I had times where, I sort of gave up hope or whatever the question was? Not really. Not really. I've never really been shut down like that. And if I have
Okay.
been shut down really badly, I think that I won the battle. I think that I won the battle because it was just too much for them. A lot of people that hate you and envy you for speaking the truth about how you feel usually are scared to say what they think. So as a result, they shut you down. They're like, no, don't say what you think. You know?
yeah.
I think
Uh,
we're done. Unless you
uh,
wanted to add something in.
well, Harry was the only one to answer that question.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, but I mean, you guys
Yeah.
were quiet at the end there.
Yeah, well, he was talking. I don't want to cut in. But well, wait, let me say my point. Um, but okay, like I said before, if I ever did have a dream that was shut down by school and I forgot about it, it was probably a long time ago. And if it was, I don't know. Forget that train of thought. It doesn't lead to anywhere. Harry said before, talking about it doesn't matter if you get bad grades because you're following your passion, right? Something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if there's probably a lot of kids in this case where it's like they kind of lose a sense of self due to school. I was in that kind of situation, especially from grades 9 and 10, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no passions. The only thing I would do is homework. I would go home and do homework and like, do nothing else, which is like, man, I was a great student.
Yeah.
Oh
What do
man,
you
I
be a
did
person?
great. Oh, I felt
Yeah.
horrible. Oh,
Same.
I felt
Yeah.
soulless, man.
Sucks.
It was like horrible work, and like I remember the only times I ever there was like a
Did much.
sliver in grade 9 where I tried to push out my individuality in an essay for my English class. It was on my semen, and it was a question. It was like, was uh, if you're familiar with the story, George justified in killing Lenny. Was that a good thing to do? Was that a nice thing to do? My personal opinion was no. You should never abandon your friends. You should, as hard as you can, always fight for them, nothing else. You shouldn't sacrifice them for the betterment of yourself. So I argued that, and man, I did bad on that essay, which I was like, all right, that just gave me a feeling of, all right, if I'm myself, I get bad grades, so I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Right. The only individuality that I have gained back would be in grade 11 when I started to focus on what is my passion now, which is like general psychology, because it interests me. So now, anytime I look at things, I have this lens through psychology. And that's why I ask stuff having to do about that. But other than that, it's like not much, man.
Dylan, anything to add?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, I try to be myself like all situations, but to me, it depends on the teacher. Like, I won't try as hard if they're not letting me, I guess. Like, sometimes teachers could limit you, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, unmotivate you. I get that.
You guys ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll be going to the questions for I Sued the School System. I have a really groundbreaking question, but I'm going to save that one for the last.
All right.
In the video, you see a courtroom, and you have Prince EA as the prosecuting attorney, and Education comes to the stand. What do you think about Education being represented as an old white man? Scholarly looking.
I don't know. I'm not really too into history and politics, so I can't weigh in too much on this one.
From what I remember, I'm pretty sure that's where education, or the standardized version of education, kind of started in, right? Just white
Yeah,
people,
well, like,
English settlements making schools to generally educate the populace. So
like
I
Harvard
had to get
people.
that. It's like the history of school unchanged, which is one of the main arguments. It's still the same.
Hold
So
on,
that's
hold on,
really-
hold on. That's the next question.
Okay.
Dylan, do
this-
you want to add anything before we get fast forwarded to the next question? Thanks to John.
No, I think
All right, so looking at the progress in the opening statement, comparing cars, telephones and other technology, and the classroom. What do you think of the difference?
well, okay. To me, it depends, because, like, I can't really see school being done on, like, all technology.
Okay.
'Cause, like,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, you could go.
I'm not gonna lie. I really, I kind of had, okay, looking at it now, I'm sort of, I think like, okay, like, well, what do you expect?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Especially because it's like a classroom, you know?
There's
Um,
only so much you could do, really.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
Unless it
couches or
becomes, like,
what?
digital, I don't know.
Like, what would you really expect that would look different? When
Or,
everyone's just
I
like,
guess maybe,
oh,
like,
oh my
it
gosh, I
wouldn't
think that
look.
was
European
way more of an
schools.
over exaggeration. Just as
I
like,
don't think it would
okay,
look different.
right?
How it would be run would be different, though.
But that's
Okay,
what
that
it
makes
was, right? I mean, what more could you have changed in that setting? You know, there's a teacher and then there's students and there's
Well, then
desks where they sit.
yeah, obviously that. But then the whole like only do things when I tell you to. Like there's a very lack of control that and subservience that school teaches you. And especially, do you have the as a question like comparing North American school systems to like
Nope.
what did you say?
Nope, go
All right.
right ahead.
All right. So the whole like
Oh, you're
school
asking.
staying the same. It's like it doesn't necessarily have to transfer to technology because I don't think that would work
okay,
for
yeah,
everybody,
that's true.
right? But the way we do run it can be changed. Like the whole like,
It
oh,
should
can you
be
use the
more
washroom? Oh, you're
freedom.
not allowed to go. Stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. More freedom, man. Like, oh, I
I
have to
think
go.
they
I'm only
should
allowed to use the
focus on,
washroom
like,
when I'm like told to.
just, like, creativity. 'Cause that's
Yes,
not much.
exactly. Don't have too many like
In
limiting
regards
beliefs.
to the washroom thing, I feel like it should be more like you just stand up and you look at him and you just wave your hand and go.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, like raise your hand. Oh, may I please go? Like, what the fuck? Just go if you want to go,
Actually,
right? But at the same time, I do think, for the record, there is a little bit of acknowledgement that needs to be made between student and teacher, to
Yeah.
leave the room, just so they know.
Exactly. Yeah, just like like you're eating
It
at a
shouldn't be like a
dinner.
question. It shouldn't
Go
be
you
a
just say, "Oh,
question.
excuse me."
Yeah. It shouldn't be. Excuse me. Yeah. It shouldn't be a question, but it should be like, all right, what I mean? Like, I'm going, right? It's like,
Yeah,
just so you
exactly.
know, I'm
So they
out.
know.
Yeah.
They know
It
what
should
you
be
are.
like
Because they are your like
No, but the thing is this though. Okay.
protectors.
Um, I had one teacher, and I can't see this as a lie, and she said that you cannot refuse a student's right to go to the washroom. It's like if they have to go, they have to go. And she's like, I'm like, well, what if they're lying? She's like, well, you can't really tell, so like, if they have to go, they have to go. She's like, just let them go. So, or like,
Yeah.
if you would ask her at any time, any moment, she would just let you go. Like
Hmm.
always, she's like, yeah, sure,
That's
whatever.
nice.
Like,
I wish
just
all
go ahead.
teachers were like that.
Yeah.
But you can't even
A
lie.
lot.
That makes
Of,
sense.
yeah.
Like,
I
that's
feel like
not
a
like a
lot of the teachers
stupid
in grade
thing.
12 are like that,
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
which
true.
is kind of like, man.
Given this happened to me, I assume it also happened to you. Excuse me, teacher, can I go to the bathroom? We just had recess 40 minutes ago. Why didn't you go then?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, I always hated that because it's like, well, you know what?
dumb
I didn't
answer.
feel like it. it's
No, like,
it's
But why
what's it
didn't you
called?
feel like it?
It's a dumb answer.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same as the car crash thing. It's like,
The what?
well, why did you get into a car crash? It's like, you couldn't prepare yourself to get into a car crash. You know what I mean? Like when it happens, it kind of just happens.
yeah, it's like you can
Almost
try
like,
your
yeah,
best to prevent it. Oh, I'm gonna dehydrate myself so I
right.
never have to
But
use
like
the
when you need to
washroom
go
at
to the
school.
washroom, it's not like,
All that
well,
could go wrong is I pass out or die.
yeah, like
Exactly.
you wouldn't know like 40 minutes later that you'd have to go. Like that's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly, right.
So,
Uh,
I think I will continue if y'all don't mind.
hold on.
oh wait, no, let me finish about the whole school
Oh,
changing
sorry.
thing. The whole like, what was it? Finland? Yeah, it was Finland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, have you
How
seen their
they
schools though?
Well,
Scandinavian.
not
They're
really, but I
nice.
have the video did explain it a little bit, where it's like school time is shorter, no homework, and they focus on collaboration, which is very smart because like you need to know how to collaborate if you're gonna
Yeah.
like, get a job, like be on a team of something that's important, right? Like no one really works alone,
Hmm.
right? You need to learn social skills, which learning focusing on collaboration does do, and no homework. That's great because no stress. So when you go to school,
We
you
get
are
to sleep.
energized. Yeah, you're energized. You go to school, you're awake. You pay attention, right? Shorter school days. That means you have more of the day to do other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like do exercise, which is a very huge part, especially for
Hmm.
boys. Boys, especially younger boys, they can't pay attention unless they've done exercise because they have too much energy, right?
Like,
So having shorter days for that short amount of time, they're completely focused. The rest of the day, bam, they get that energy out,
Well, that's
rest,
the
come
thing
back
though,
to
eh?
school next day, energized.
Either
It's
you
like
get really short days or really long days. You know what I mean? Like you
long
can have
days should
like
make you
very
so
short.
tired.
No. But that's the thing though. It's tiring if school isn't very exciting. Like
Yeah,
that's what I mean, right? You can
hmm
actually have a long day, but it also has to come with the idea that school can also be very exciting.
exactly.
Like there has
More
to be
like
something, something
recess,
like that, or some kind of break
recess
or
gym.
an
Yeah,
activity,
exactly. So
you
exactly.
know. But it can also be a very long day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yep.
healthy to sit down all day either, right? It's like
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the whole day. Another thing. Oh my
I'm
god,
gonna stop you
I
there,
just
man.
forgot.
Dylan wanted to say something, and
Oh
we're
yeah,
kind of
sorry.
running low on
Go
time.
ahead.
wait, no,
sorry,
okay.
sorry.
I know the CEO of Alibaba. I'm pretty sure he said like to his son to average a 70%, so he could focus on like things outside of school and not stress as much.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Interesting.
That sounds like good parenting. I'm
70
gonna move on with the
percent
next question
reasonable.
because we're running low on time, gentlemen.
Yep. Go ahead.
What do you think about the
Yeah.
comment competing for a grade that determines product quality? How
Huh.
we're all racing for A's or 100%s?
Yeah, it's because schools
Well,
Competition, honestly,
it's
like getting
not.
into university.
I
schools
don't.
industrialized. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. We're selling
Yep.
ourselves. We're like it's like looking at he like compared it to like meat. Oh, this is grade A meat.
Mhm.
It's like school makes us. Well, we work to be grade A quality, and then they show us off like products, and then we hope that a good university
Or
buys
college,
us,
yeah.
selects us, even though we're the ones
Mhm.
paying for them.
I think the issue isn't competition. I think the issue is the grading of it itself.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
don't think
very.
Okay.
competition's a bad thing. I don't think it is. But I
Actually,
think
it's
that
kind of fun
the
sometimes.
way in which
Uh,
the mark is determined and the steps to get those marks, that's what I think the issue is. It doesn't I don't think it has anything to do with the competition. Because in terms of competition, it's actually a really good thing to be not competitive, but to have that competition in a factor in terms of decisions in choosing
All
different
right.
people. Right.
Dylan, anything to add?
No, that's pretty good.
All right. Here's the next question.
oh,
Uh, Given that Frederick J. Kelly, the man who invented standardized testing, bubbling and answers, SATs, CAT tests, EQAO, and all that, he invented his creation and called it too crude to be used and should be abandoned. Yet still we base our entire education system around the crude tool that should be abandoned. What do you think of that?
I feel like the people who run just education in general are quite lazy and they don't want to change, right?
No,
Because standardized tests are very easy, right?
you can make them very well, okay, you can make them difficult and you can make them simple. Because in reality, if you want to test somebody on something, you can actually give them another version of a test with the exact same answer, with the same answers, and then give them the same test, like give them a review that has questions and answers, and give them a test that's those questions with those answers. And all you gotta do is memorize that. And what's
Yeah.
pretty messed up is I think you could probably do it that exact same way and get the same result as what we have now. Instead of, oh,
Mm.
here, this is what you have to know. Oh, look for all the answers and figure out these things. Figure out how to solve all these problems. And here's the test with all problems you've never seen before, with
All
principles you've
right.
seen, you got to
I'm
memorize,
going to
right?
stop you there, Harry, because you're getting into some interesting ground. Dylan, do you have anything to add?
Well,
He says they're
yeah,
too crude to be used and should be abandoned.
I think what they said pretty much sums it up.
All right. Now we get to the really interesting question. And I have a timer. I will give you each exactly 2 minutes, 120 seconds to explain to me how you would revolutionize the education system of Canada. We're going to start with Harry.
No clue.
You start in
Uh,
3,
Let me go
2.
first. Let me go first.
I'll
I got
pass it.
this.
I don't know.
Okay, John. Starting
All
in
right.
3, 2, 1. 2 minutes.
Okay, so either shorter days where just focus on schoolwork and then let them go free, or longer days with like breaks, recess, stuff between. That and there shouldn't be like a select courses that you have to do because it's very limiting and not a lot of people have the same passions for the subjects that we're forced to do. Obviously, you're gonna have the beginning courses like English, math, some sciences, but other than that, everything else should be completely free to do. Uh, no homework 'cause that just makes stress and causes children, students to have less energy. What else? Oh my god, I know there's something there.
You can always
uh,
come back to it.
Just take a breath,
oh
guys.
yes,
It'll come to you.
test. It was about testing because we have standardized testers like we only have a select. You have a selection of answers that you can choose, and there's only one right answer to test your knowledge, which is kind of dumb because I feel like the best way to test someone is just like, hey, this is what you're being tested on, write about it,
1
right?
minute.
So like by doing that, it's like you're testing each child differently. Because let's say this child remembers all the straight facts. Man, that kid's good at remembering these facts. Mark him good on that because he's good at something and he memorized a lot. Let's say another kid is good at asking questions about the subject, right? Exploring fields of the subject, right? And exploring it using his own knowledge into the subject, and they write about that. You can mark that because it shows their
30
strength.
seconds.
So you should be testing people on their strengths instead of this uniform line that's already been set.
I agree. I like
Is
it.
that your final statement?
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I'll go next.
Harry.
It'll probably end
2
short.
minutes. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
As a whole, I think one of the biggest, I guess, ideas that sprouted in my mind was I was speaking to a teacher about this specific topic. And I said, well, what is a teacher really supposed to be? And a teacher is supposed to be a professional at teaching things, right? They're not supposed to be a supervisor. They're not supposed to be, someone who just gives you a book. They're supposed to be a professional. And it's also a professional in their field as well. Like, and that's one of the big things that was brought up in one of our classes we shared together, the idea that a teacher is teaching you how to be a good student, and not how to be a good learner. How teachers were good students and they became teachers and they were just teaching you, oh, this is how I was a student and this is what I want you to do. Exactly, right? Fitting you into this mold. But they're not actually teaching you anything new, teaching you anything, I guess, of importance at all. So how can we, make teachers professionals at teaching? I don't know. You couldn't answer that question. But I think that we can all say that there are teachers who are professionals at what they do. Um, I guess a whole thing
Anything
in
else? You have 30
collaboration.
seconds.
Collaboration we brought up before. A little more collaborative work, being able to talk and speak with people. Social awkwardness is huge in our day and age now.
Hmm.
But as a whole, I wouldn't really, other than what I've said, I'm not really changing much of the education system. I'm kind of just bringing up more
You're just
problems.
updating it.
Yeah.
So that was 101 minute and 49 seconds and 0.9 millisecond. Dylan, comes down to you.
Right.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Your 2
Get
minutes
set.
starts
Go.
right
Okay.
now.
So for me, I try to make it more like, I don't know. I see other schools that are like really nice. For example, so like my family's from Portugal, and I know some schools from there. Like they're just very open, and kids get to like be more free, I guess. Like I don't know, they have like swimming, like all these courses that you could take in a day, and then they go home and it's like not as much homework, I'm guessing. So I guess schools should focus on just like teaching kids, but not like the traditional way. Like so they retain information and like never lose it, not just to like put it on a test. I'm guessing. Yeah, that's my answer.
All right.
Short.
That is all the time we have then, gentlemen. So, I'd like to thank you, dear viewer, for listening to three people rant and another guy say barely anything but questions that were already written. And I think this is the Great Hall signing off.
Bye, everybody.
Another one.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching.